Hello, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are well. It is March. That means another month has gone, and it means a roundup of all the books I read in February. There were 5 this time. All of them were pretty good. Some were a bit slower than others, but I'm pretty pleased with all the books I did manage to read. It's been a bit busy amongst all the other chaos that's been going on in my life right now, and I'm trying to keep sane, but I thought I'd just jump straight in. Now, you may already have seen from the thumbnail the types of books I read, but it is not these 5. It is the 5 I have right here. So there's a whole big mix here, and then some that were on my Christmas list of the books I was given and I wanted to end up reading. I'm going to go right to the start of the books I read, and I'm going to try and remember what was in them because some of them are quite dense. It's also the end of the day when I'm filming this, so I'm aware my makeup might be a bit smudged and everything. And also, I've got you on a light here, and it's just like the time of day I can film this. If you support my channel, then I can get a better setup. But yeah, we're just enjoying the books right now. So thanks for supporting me if you have. But cool, back to books. So first up was Paradise City by Elizabeth Day. Now, I am a massive fan of Elizabeth Day. You just see the tops of her books just behind this pile here. When I read Magpie, I think it was, and then The Party. But then this is my 3rd book of hers. I think it's been 1, maybe 2 years since I last read some of her books. But this one is set in London. You'll know by now from my previous videos that books set in London are my favourite, and this one did not disappoint. The main reason I love novels set in London, maybe not me going to London anymore, but novels set in London is because it captures characters pretty differently, and just everything about them is so unique. So this follows 4 characters: Beatrice, Howard, Carol, and Esme. All of them are from different backgrounds, they've got different jobs, different lives, but you'll find out why all of them are interlinked in this book. I've also got a bit of a cold, so I'm having to pause when I need to breathe and stuff. But it follows 4 different characters, like I said. Howard Pink, who is basically, I don't want to say old money, but he is super wealthy. And then these 3 other women. Beatrice, who's fled to London from, can't remember the country, I don't want to even guess, but it was some country in Africa. And then there is Carol, she's recently widowed and living it quietly in Wandsworth. And then Esme, who is a young journalist who I think is inspired by Elizabeth Day herself when she was a journalist. And it all starts on Howard and how it turns out he is kind of a naughty boy when he gets involved with Beatrice, who's just trying to do her job as a housemaid. Think Me Too movement, but then does Howard, it's not even Harold, oh my gosh, Howard Pink learn from his ways, as we learn there is more to this man than meets the eye. He's got a little secret, haven't we all? And it just basically follows him and all these other characters as we develop through that as well. Partway through this book, I kind of guessed what was linking them all together, especially when we get to Carol, because Esme manages to interview Howard for one of the stories in a newspaper, and then Beatrice, as I said, works as a housemaid or a maid in a hotel that he goes to. There's Carol, who I mentioned, who we don't really come across much in the book. She's just on her own, not crossing much with the other characters until we learn something where she's looking after her neighbour's house, neighbour's garden, neighbour's cats, where something happens, and then we piece it all together from there. I really enjoyed this being set in London, and it just follows all the different backgrounds, and how I love how Elizabeth Day perfectly encaptures how different people can be in such a if you think about it, London is a small city, but it's so dense and you get so many different backgrounds, walks of life, different journeys and everything. And yeah, she just writes about them so well. And I guess if you're a Londoner, you're going to know that kind of thing too. But yeah, I'd recommend this. If you watched my previous video, I think it was, or follow me on Instagram, I've put posts on there saying my favourite books set in London and Ireland and stuff. So yeah, that might give you a little idea. But yeah, enjoyed this. Next is a short and sweet one, and I was on the hunt for this in the library and it was just there. This, I can understand why this author is so well loved by children and ourselves as adults. It is Coraline by Neil Gaiman. Now, I love the film of this, and even though it's quite horror based and spooky, this is quite terrifying. Even though this is for teens, I think, or younger people, I don't know. I love how he drives your imagination, and I could just only imagine what that does for a kid, and that's kind of how I fell in love with reading. I read these kinds of books that got me really thinking, put into my own world, and it's just like this for Coraline. I love this one. This is an anniversary edition, I think. I don't know if it's 20 years or something, but it includes an introduction from Neil Gaiman himself, and I've actually got his Neverwhere book, which is another one. I'll talk about that another time, but I love the introductions he does for his books about why he wrote them, what inspired them, where he was at the time. And for this, he started it for one of his daughters, but ended up getting sidetracked, stopped halfway through a sentence, came back to it several years later and picked up through that same sentence and finished it for his other daughter, and kind of inspired by them moving houses and everything, or I think it's at different flats, kind of inspired by Coraline, who is actually previously called Caroline, and it was just this misspelling that he thought, oh, that'd make a great name. And here we have Coraline, and you may know the story, but I'll just describe it here. So it follows young Coraline. She's at moved house with her mum and dad, and she's bored before the school term starts. Set in the UK, even though the film is US based, I think. She's in the UK waiting for the term to begin, and she's exploring the new house. Her parents are like, just do something. She's like, I'm bored. Then she finds this mysterious door in the sitting room or living room. Some days it opens to a brick wall, until one day it opens out to this little tunnel into another world. It's basically a mirror of her current world, but instead of her mum and dad being like, go be busy, she's welcomed with open arms and love by her other mother and other father. But the freaky bit is they have buttons for eyes. But what I do love about this is it's quite chilling, and you can tell like at the start something isn't quite right between other mother and other father, especially from other mother. She is like quite sinister, and Coraline soon figures that out for herself. She's a bit like suspicious of her, and there's this little black cat trying to be her, I don't know, devil on the shoulder kind of thing, and can talk as well. But also part of this is, besides the neighbours she has, like there's a neighbour upstairs who talks to mice, I don't know, and then they turn into dancing rats in this other world. I'm not totally sure. I'm having another mind blank. And then there's her neighbours, Mr. and Mrs. Fink or something. I'm not, Spink, maybe. But Coraline soon works out her other mother does not have her best interests at heart when she wants to put buttons in her eyes herself. And Coraline goes on an adventure trying to solve these puzzles and basically weave her way around other mother so she can get back to her proper mum and dad. This is less than 200 pages, I think, and I devoured this, I think, in like a weekend. It is so charming. What it did for my imagination, I was smiling throughout this. I'm not going to show you the pictures in it because, like, yeah, this is an illustrated anniversary edition and they're pretty, like, freaky. I don't know what the main age range is for this, but it is pretty spooky, but delightful to read. If you just need something that you know will boost your mood, this is it, even though it is horror-based. But it's just so your imagination goes to wild places. But yeah, this is just an easy 5-star for me. And Neverwhere, this is much more of an adult-based book, so I'm looking forward to what that's got to offer. But yeah. Oh, and I did love Stardust. I've talked about that before. I really love that book, but this Coraline, very, very good. Okay, now this one, I hope I do it justice. One of the 2 books I hope to do justice. You've probably seen it everywhere, particularly on Netflix at the minute. It is One Day by David Nichols. Like it says in the title, 20 years and 2 people. It follows Dexter and Emma, set in, I think it's 1988. We first meet them at Edinburgh Uni. They've just graduated, and Emma is like a no-nonsense woman from Leeds, whereas Dex, he's just loving life, and I think he just struggles to accept that he's going to grow up. They first meet, like I said, in Edinburgh on the 15th of July, which is St. Swithin's Day, and we follow them each year for the next 20 years to find out where they are, see if they're still friends or not, what's happening in their lives. And if you know me by now in my videos and what I read, this is just like perfect. It is Bill Dunst-Roman, which is like coming of age type novels that I enjoy so much. I love these, like just following characters, seeing what their lives are about, what's going on with them and how we grow up with them as well. And they go from young adults into these fine adults, should we say, but it is full of love, romance, 2 different things, friendship, and just like enjoying life really. And I've taken a lot away from this book. I can really relate to Emma, which I know is David Nichols' like most loved characters in all of his books that he's written. And yeah, this is just, I've wanted to read this for a while. It's actually, saying that, it's actually been on my 12 books for 2024 that I want to read, so I'm slowly getting through them. I've got a few more lined up, and at the top above here as well, if you can see right there up above my bookshelf. Yeah, I love this book so much. I wanted to shake the pair of them just so much, just like, you're surely destined to be together, you're such good friends. And I've compared this to Normal People vibes, but also my favourite novel that I've read in the past like year or ever is Talking at Night by Claire Daverley. I will not stop going on about that book. Like I said, I think about that daily, not gonna lie. And even though I have the hardback, I'm most likely gonna get the paperback this year as well, so I can annotate it and stuff. Yeah, this is just as precious. If you're interested in getting this, I do link all the books I read down below, but you will most likely find this in so many charity shops, like just so many of them. And then there's the whole new book cover in Waterstones, I think, and everywhere else at the minute. And I love this. The Netflix series was done so well, because I always worry with adaptations and I get like, I don't want to watch them because I love the book so much. But the film, it was okay, but I think they really botched it, and it is not enough time to do justice for this book. Whereas the Netflix one, it almost sticks for like some of the dialogue, like word for word, and sticks with the storyline and what happens pretty perfectly. I just can't like convey how much I love this book. It's the second book of his I've read. I think I read Understudy, and I did not like that book at all. I just didn't. But I knew this one was a good one. It's loved by a lot of people. I've got his other one, Us, on my Kindle, and I've got another one just behind me called Sweet Sorrow, which is actually in the sticker here. So yes, I look forward to reading those as well, because this was very successful. We'll see if any of them can beat this, but I'm fairly sure they won't. Ooh, on to book 4 of 5, and this, like I said, I don't know if I'm going to do this justice. And when I posted about this on my Instagram, I was like, yeah, well, as I'm posting and writing this, I don't think what I can say will be justice enough. And in fact, I actually did a video on this book alone of me reading it. It took me a whole month to read, and that is slow for me. I don't know if it's because, one, this is like more literary based, and I am not a massive fan of literary novels. I'm more just fiction, commercial based. But this won the 2023 Booker Prize. I am talking about Prophet Song by Paul Lynch. I won't go too much into it again because I did a whole video on it, but it's set in Northern Ireland, and I think it's like this dystopian type of island, I guess, but a lot of parallels to what's happening today. And it is so dark, doesn't even cover it. It is beyond bleak, and I thought I could handle bleak books, but this is just, oh my gosh, it is mind-blowing, and I couldn't give this anything other than 5 stars. And if you watch Paul Lynch's acceptance speech, that was just pretty mesmerizing. And this, I can't convey what this book was like. It took me so long to read, but I can understand why this won and what it was trying to achieve. I also want to read the other one by Paul Murray, which is The Bee Sting, which was like, people thought that would have won the Booker Prize, but yeah, this is very close. So I look forward to reading that, setting myself a challenge. But this, wow, it follows a mum Eilish and her husband Larry, I think his name is, and their 4 children. There's a knock in the middle of the night or something asking for Larry to come with these 2 men. No, he says, and basically it all just transpires from there, and it turns out this is happening to other families, but at the same time we don't know what's going on. And that is the whole thing, like we only just get to the surface of what's happening, but just like the characters, we still don't know a lot. And I was left feeling pretty confused by this novel still, because I still cannot work out why it's called Prophet Song. I just don't feel smart enough for this novel, or to describe it, or to give it justice enough. So I'm sure there are other people out there who will be able to unpick this a lot more than I can, but yeah, I can't do this book justice enough. But it was mesmerizing, transcending, and blooming bleak. Right, on to my 5th book of February, and the final one. It is Second Self by Chloe Ashby. I had never anticipated that I would read this book. However, I saw her first book, Wet Paint, which is actually in the final bit of the book. It was her debut, and I think she comes from like an arty background, and she likes working with paint, which is reflected in this novel as well, where her character is like, I think it's, what is it, recovering some painting, and she's starting to uncover part of it, and I think that's like a parallel to what's going on in her personal life. This was a much slower book compared to the other books I've read, and not one that pretty much changed my reading life, but it was very different, and I think it's really good to open your horizons to different kinds of books. But we follow Kathy, and it follows themes of, I guess, fertility and knowing yourself, and then societal issues as well, and expectations, especially when it comes to deciding if you want to have a child or not. How does my makeup look right now? So Kathy is happily married to her husband Noah. He is slightly older than her, and he is said from the start he does not want children. However, because of things going on around Kathy, her friends are having babies. I think her sister is... Does she have a sister? I can't remember. There were a few female characters in this book and not many men. And she is starting to question, as I think she's in her late 30s, whether she should be having a child or not. And she goes on about freezing her eggs. But when she tells her husband Noah, who is pretty much from the start like, no, I do not want them. This is your choice, or if you do this, you're alone. And it's kind of just saying from there, either way, whatever she does, something will be lost. So either she sticks with Noah, loses the chance of having a child on her own, or has this child on her own, loses her husband Noah. And it just follows things from there, her expectations and then her worry, as there's like a time clock on your body, like for any woman there is having a child. And again, all these expectations, because there's like, oh, there's so much to unpick with that. And then this second self, there are so many things to unpick with that in itself. So Kathy herself, and then maybe having a baby. And then there's her friends having a baby, love and lost there. And then there's also this painting as well. I think the painting is meant to be like a motif or something throughout of her unpicking stuff like she is her own life. Whereas she's also dealing with things with her mother, where from the start it becomes clear something's not quite right with her as well when she misses meeting her for a birthday lunch, but I won't say any more on that. But yeah, this is a much slower paced book, and I think I needed it amongst all the other books I read. Yeah, this was okay. I'm actually looking forward to seeing her at the Yard next week, and that's kind of why I read this, because I wanted to, if I'm going to see someone live, I want to have read at least one of their books to get an understanding of what's happening. This has not put me off wanting to read her other book. I have so many other books to read though, so it's not top of my list, but I look forward to reading Wet Paint. And this one, it was an okay end to February. And there we have it. All the books I read in February, and yeah, it was a pretty good month, I'm going to say. Ooh, I don't drop them. And I tell you what, it was pretty decent. I could go into what I'm reading this month, but it changes and I don't want that pressure. But I'm literally finishing a Kindle book today, I think, when I'm recording this, and sorting my life out. So I'll be in touch soon. Thank you for watching this video. If you made it this far, please give it a like. Hit subscribe if you can. It'd be great to have you in this growing community. I am super excited to what's to come. And if you support me, it edges me closer to building out my bookshelf and a nicer setup in the background. So yeah, if you want to see more of that, hit subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.